In this movie, I'll provide you with what I hope is some helpful practical device for selecting the perfect interpolation setting when downsampling photographic images here inside Photoshop. So what I've done is create a diagram in which I've downsampled this photographic panorama subject to each one of the 6 interpolation settings. And I did so by going up to the image menu and, of course, choosing the image size command. And notice that both width and height are set to pixels. I went ahead and set the width value to 2048, which is the ideal width for a cover photo for a personal Facebook page. And then, of course, I selected each one of these various interpolation settings, bearing in mind that when you're downsampling an image, automatic is the same thing as bicubic sharper. Also notice here that if I change from pixels, let's say, to percent, in an older version of Photoshop, I would all of a sudden balloon the image to 2048%, which of course would not be what I want. Nowadays, if you choose percent, then you're going to translate the pixel value to a percent value like so, which is a small but wonderful improvement inside this dialog box. Also notice that both the width and height changed to percent, so we're seeing 21.31 for both of them. But let's say that I want to leave height set to percent and I want to now switch width back to pixels. Then I would press the Shift key and click on this option and choose pixels like so. And as you can see, now we're seeing a width value of 2048 pixels and a height value of 21.31%. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out here and switch over to that diagram I was telling you about. And we're just going to work through each one of the settings in order of complexity. So I'll go ahead and zoom into this bus over here on this bridge. And so what we're seeing now is what happens if we downsample the image subject to nearest neighbor, which, as I was telling you, just goes ahead and keeps or abandons pixels. And as a result, we get these very harsh transitions, which is why, as I say, I never use nearest neighbor for downsampling. But I just wanted you to see what it looks like. All right, next we'll switch to bilinear, which is giving us these very smooth results, especially along the lines of this bridge. And we can now make out the word Scotsman, where before, if I switch back, you can see that it was utterly illegible. All right, so there's bilinear. Here is bicubic. It looks just slightly different. We have a little bit of sharpening. You might be able to barely make out along these lines in the bridge. And bicubic can help to make words a little sharper as well. So the word Scotsman is showing up ever so slightly better. Now, if you want to smooth things out, then of course we've got bicubic smoother, which goes ahead and softens the transitions between pixels. If you want sharper results, then you switch to bicubic sharper. And I'll go ahead and zoom in on the bus some more. You can barely make out this bright haloing along the top of the bus here. And haloing, these bright and dark halos, by the way, translate to seeing things sharper inside of a digital image. So it makes the image more tactile. And then finally, I'll go ahead and switch to preserve details. And if you didn't see anything shift even slightly on screen, that's because nothing did. Where this image is concerned, at least, both bicubic sharper, shown here, and then preserve details, shown here, are pixel for pixel identical. So what's the upshot of all this, especially given that we're seeing some very subtle transformations? Well, I'll go ahead and zoom out to 100%, and I'll switch to this next slide. Here are my rules for downsampling. First of all, when in doubt, stick with automatic, because it is going to give you some nice, sharp, tactile results. However, if you plan on further sharpening the image, and by that, I mean that you might go up to the filter menu, choose sharpen, and choose one of these 2 commands down here, either smart sharpen or unsharp mask, both of which we will discuss at length in a chapter of the Photoshop One-on-One Advanced course. Why then you're better off not sharpening the image as you downsample it, but rather choosing bicubic, the standard bicubic setting, which inside the image size dialog box, let me show you that by pressing Control-Alt-I or Command-Option-I on the Mac, is known as this guy right there, bicubic, and in parentheses, smooth gradients. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out. And incidentally, that was my favorite setting where this image is concerned, which is why we are seeing that setting right now in the background. If, however, an image is noisy, that is, it has a bunch of random fluctuations between neighboring pixels, which is very common for low-light photos, by the way, as well as photos that are captured with smartphones. In that case, you may want to try bicubic smoother instead in order to soften the transitions between the pixels. And then finally, if the results look jagged, once you get done downsampling, everything just looks jagged as heck, then go ahead and undo the image size command and try it again using the bilinear setting. And that is what I truly hope is some helpful practical advice for selecting the ideal interpolation setting when downsampling photographic images here inside Photoshop.